Today I will present an essay about narcotics and the effects of narcotics on the community. My name is Jennifer King. In 1980, that was a good year for a lot of us. Good music, fun fashion, pop culture, but it's also the decade of heavy narcotic use. According to the National Survey of Drug Use and Health from 1979 through 2017, which collected data to compile these results. In the 80s, cocaine had the highest usage rate by a fair margin. This was cited from the National Rehab Directory of 2019. Although the word narcotics was not often used, but it was known about in my community, and the effects were devastating. I was raised in a small country town where everybody truly knew each other, generations of family, history, and relationships, but drug addictions turned many of these people to mere strangers. In this presentation, I would like to shed some light on a silent enemy called narcotics abuse and its damaging effects to communities. Here I've also prepared a slide with some helpful statistics that'll go along with the presentation. According to the National Database of Drug Use, reports that data is figured out by most popular drugs this is actually grouped together by category, and it's telling you the rate and usage by years of the different drugs, and cocaine ranked had the number one usage rate from 1979 to 1988 and continued to have one of the higher usage rates into the 2000s. People use drugs for many different reasons, and its effects can vary in each community. Both cities and small towns have been devastated by narcotics in some way, and it's equally damaging. The impact of narcotics on a rural town is something I saw firsthand. I lived in a small town in Georgia until I was 19, and over the years from the 80s to the 90s and to present day, there's a difference in the landscape of the small towns and many of the small towns across America. The side effects of narcotics in the community is horrendous. Drug use increases crime and risky behavior, low education attainment, unemployment, and poverty. Substance abuse can result in increased illegal activities, as well as physical and social health consequences, such as poor academic performance, poor health status, changes in brain structure, and increased risk of death from overdose and suicide, according to the site called National Rehab Directory of 2019. These are some of the negative effects on the community: crime, unemployment, poverty, low education attainment. The side effects, crime and risky behavior are two of the many negative offsprings of drugs. We'll go to the next slide that goes with this. Although both are somewhat similar, all risky behavior is not a crime, but it's equally harming to all involved. Crimes and risky behaviors are actions or activities that may be legal or illegal, evil, shameful, harmful, dangerous, or wrong. Over time, in many rural areas, theft of private property, vandalism, prostitution, and overdose is on the rise each year. These are all considered crimes and risky behavior. Theft of private property, retail may seem like petty crimes, but can be devastating to the people involved. The money from these items can fund drug addictions, leaving local stores and neighbors to deal with the financial devastation. Vandalizing is the action involving deliberately destruction of or damage to public or private property. When property is vandalized, it can be costly for the owners involved. Prostitution is risky behavior, but in many states it's also a crime. The exposure to STDs and AIDS is greater for narcotic and illicit drug users. According to the CDC, 1 in 10 HIV diagnoses occur among people who inject drugs. This was cited from the Center of Control and Disease Abuse, 2016. Substance abuse can result in increased illegal activities as well as physical and social health consequences such as being poor academic performance, poor health statuses, changes in the brain structure, increased risk of death from overdose and suicide. Crime and risky behavior, we just went over that one. More statistics that show the use of drugs in rural and urban areas. Although many people do not commonly associate low education attainment and drugs, but this too is another social issue that can derive from narcotics use in a community. Low educational attainment is a term commonly used by statisticians to refer to the highest degree of education an individual has completed as defined by the U.S. Census Bureau glossary. Low education attainment occurs when young adults and teenagers are introduced to drugs and lose interest in school and related activities, which leads to high school dropout rates and isolation resulting in low education attainment. Many teens and young adults are not aware of the lasting effects of drugs and the immediate changes that happen once you begin to use them. For many decades, our entertainment industries have depicted drug use in a glamorous light, but drug overdose is not. There are countless cases of drug-related deaths involving Hollywood and pop stars like Jimi Hendrix, Marilyn Monroe, River Phoenix, John Belushi, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Mac Miller, Prince, Juice WRLD, and many more. The increased awareness about drug use and its effects is an ongoing fight. Informing the public of the negative impact narcotics have on community can seem to be a lost cause. Drug overdose contributes to 1 in 5 deaths according to the National Vital Statistics System, and with many people turning to narcotics for recreational and health reasons, these numbers will steadily rise. Not all narcotic use is recreational. Some addictions are results of injury, sports injuries, car accidents, and work-related. All may call for prescription of some type of narcotic. The ongoing use of narcotics in high doses can be highly addictive for some patients and lead to an unhealthy relationship with painkillers. Narcotics abuse associated with injury and chronic pain affects at least 50 million individuals annually with a cost of $70 billion. This was published by the Chronic Pain and Narcotics. In 2018, there were 367 drug overdoses deaths in the United States. We have discussed several impacts of narcotics, but the last topics are unemployment and poverty. These two go hand in hand. The presence of narcotics and other drugs increases these social issues. The use of drugs decreases your drive and motivation to work. Failure to pass necessary drug screenings can also limit your career choices and path. Possible jail time, criminal charges. But the cost to maintain the habit can be financially devastating on families. Some statistics: drug overdose contributes to 1 in 5 deaths according to the National Vital Statistics System. In 2018, as we quoted, there was almost 68,000 drug overdoses due to death in the United States. Narcotics and education, as we discussed, low education attainment is a term commonly used by statistics, and it's defined by the U.S. Census Bureau as the degree of which a person has completed their education. Narcotics and its effects, the unemployment and poverty rates. As we discussed, it decreases your drive and motivation to work, causes failure to pass necessary drug screenings, possible jail time and criminal charges. The results from lack of work or unemployment can have a domino effect on an individual or a family. Family's quality of life. No work many times means no income to pay rent, utilities, leaving addicts to be homeless, youth shelters become dependent on others increasingly dependent on others, and ultimately poverty and unemployment become a lifestyle for most addicts in a never-ending struggle to feed their addiction. So in conclusion, I hope this presentation has left you informed of the silent terror that has for decades creeped into our communities and changed their landscapes and people negatively, but also to provoke you to see narcotics is not just a city problem, but is a nationwide issue. During this speech, we've covered some of the outcomes of narcotics that narcotics have on a community, such as poverty, crime, unemployment, low education attainment, and death by overdose. No one will never know the totality of micro effects that narcotics can be linked to, but we do know narcotics' presence in the community can be devastating and sometimes everlasting. Thank you.